So with me today is my colleague, Jennifer Harder, who is a professor of law at McGeorge and also the faculty director for the online programs. Professor Harder practiced water and public agency law for 10 years at one of Sacramento's largest firms before joining our faculty. She teaches administrative law and natural resources with a focus on public agency law. So thank you for joining us today, Professor Harder.
Thank you so much, Dean Kuchera. It's my pleasure to be here.
So before we talk about our programs, I thought I should give you a brief overview of McGeorge School of Law for those of you who do not know us yet. It has been a hallmark in legal education since 1924. We are located physically in Sacramento, the capital of California, and we are part of the University of the Pacific. Many of our faculty have held or continue to hold major positions in government, and we are recognized as one of the best law schools for public service and government law often. McGeorge has always thrived to be innovative, and our Master of Science in Law degree programs that we are discussing today is yet another example of how cutting edge McGeorge is. We've been offering an MSL degree here at McGeorge since 2014. So, Professor Harder, for our guests who are listening to us today, could you let them know what should a student hope to gain from an MSL degree at McGeorge?
Thank you, Dean Kuchera. I'm happy to talk about that, one of my favorite topics. So the Master of Science in Law degree is a fantastic degree. It is intended to give students a very deep education in the language and process and fundamental principles of law and policy. You gain an opportunity through the program to understand the nuances of legal protocol and how lawyers think. So the MSL degree itself signals to the world that the graduate has a unique understanding of law and policy, and one that really sets them apart from their peers. So our courses, which we'll talk about in a little more detail later on, they give the students the opportunity to dig into the theory of the law, but also really importantly to apply that theory to real world situations. So let me give you an example of what that might look like. Students will have the opportunity to learn about federal and state administrative procedures acts and the legal requirements for notice, comment, responses to comment, rule publication, all of the things that go along with that. At the same time, the students have the opportunity to draft comments, just as they would in the real world. They draft comments on rules and then draft responses to those comments. And then they get the opportunity to engage with the professor and their fellow students around strategies to address real life situations that arise, such as, for example, how to handle technical data, how to cope with last minute comments, and how the policy, political, and legal processes intersect. This, of course, is a major area of focus in the real world today at local, state, and federal levels. It's just one example of the ways in which the program blends theory and practice and really sets those graduates who have the MSL degree apart. One of the things we're really proud about in the McGeorge online program is that it provides flexibility for individuals who may have other commitments such as work and family and other obligations. They can go ahead and work on the degree and earn the degree while they also take care of those commitments and advance their careers. We have a primarily asynchronous format in the program, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. What it means generally is that students don't need to be in the same place at the same time. And this flexibility, though, is coupled with what is really an innovative approach to online interaction, an approach that we've specifically designed to encourage robust discussion and development of relationships between students and between students and their professors. So I really want to underscore the ways in which we have intentionally designed the program to foster excellence in learning, using best practices in online teaching and online learning. This is not delivery of crisis delivery of courses remotely. These are courses that have been thoughtfully put together over time, with attention to those best practices, and we really focus on that substantive interaction between students and their faculty. So I think students can hope to get all of those things out of the MSL degree at McGeorge.
Thank you, Professor Harder. Um, so as you've just mentioned, we offer 200% asynchronous online MSL programs, one in government law and policy and the other one in water and environmental law. Both programs are developed for students who do not want or need to be an attorney, but who work or want to work in a who want to work in a field that require them to have a deep understanding of the legislative and regulatory processes, as well as that in-depth knowledge in a specific area of law. We've carefully crafted the content of both programs to give students a particular set of legal skills that is directly applicable to people working in this field. And the McGeorge faculty have done extensive researches on what would constitute the best curriculum. So Professor Harder, could you expand a little bit on that and describe some of the courses offered in the online programs?
Yes, I'd be happy to. And I just want to note here that I think, like everybody else, my physical location has changed as a result of the COVID situation. And so there is some substantial background noise, and I apologize for that. It should end shortly. So,
Thank you, Professor Harder. We can hear you just fine.
good, thank you. Okay, so about those courses, I'm very proud of these courses, and I'm happy to talk about these now and also to talk with people separately or answer questions later. So the way that it works is that students in the MSL program first slate of several courses that are designed to provide a foundation in the language and process of law and in government processes. So in the first semester, the students take a legal analysis course that helps them develop skills in reading cases and understanding legal institutions, principles, all of the key things that they need to understand in order to really dive deeply into the law. In the second semester, they then explore the really critical topics of first legislatures and lawmaking, talking about how statutes, our primary source of law from our elected officials, are drafted and negotiated and enacted, and how that plays out in the legal world and in the regulatory world and policy world. And then in the other course, in the executive branch and the administrative state, the students take a close look at agencies and agency regulations and regulatory processes, which of course drives a great deal of the implementation of those statutes and drives almost every detail of life today for most people in almost every subject area, whether that's health or criminal law or government or natural resources. So following those initial courses, the students take during the summer 2 short 1-unit skills courses. One is called Leadership in Organizations. That's a very exciting course taught by a professor who has a great expertise in this area. For this coming summer, for example, the professor has integrated leadership lessons from COVID, which is wonderful, really giving students the opportunity to dig in to real world problems and explore concepts of leadership. We also then offer a course in persuasive public speaking. This is another 1-unit skills course in the summer. And this helps students communicate in meetings, both internal to their organization, external to their organization, as well as present information to wider audiences, such as in public fora. The first year curriculum and skills courses are designed so that if whatever you're interested in, whether it's government generally, or health, or criminal law, or natural resources, you all will draw equal benefit from all of these courses. So then in the second year, the students have the opportunity to break into their concentrations. And the students in the government concentration have the opportunity to take some elective courses. There's one required course called Government Law and Policy, which is an advanced look at some of the material studied in the first year, some more hands-on material, and then courses in lobbying, elections, and negotiations. They also have the opportunity to take units in directed research or to prepare a master's thesis. And in these capacities, they would work one-on-one with a faculty member on a focused issue of their choice, and they can do original law, policy, or practical research. And that can ultimately end in a presentation or publication, or whatever the learning objectives are, that can be designed around those objectives. Now, for students who are interested in natural resources, in the second year, they take courses in water resources law, which is one of my courses, environmental law, and we have courses that are focused on concepts of species protection and climate change and other natural resources issues. And these students as well can elect to undertake a supervised research project, master's thesis, one-on-one with a faculty member in that subject area. And I am available for those, and some of my excellent colleagues are also available for those studies as well. I hope that answers your question, Dean Kuchera.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And so for those of you who are here today and listening to us to this webinar, as you know, an MSL degree is not as common as a traditional law degree, the JD program. And this program is really meant for those who want to become an attorney and represent clients. So to help our audience here today, Professor Harder, and since you have taught MSL students at McGeorge since the creation of the MSL program here, who do you see as the ideal student in this program?
That's a great question. I think the MSL degree can be extraordinarily valuable for a wide range of individuals. And I've seen it benefit a wide range of individuals in their professional objectives in their careers. So let's talk about government law and policy. We might be looking at students who are interested in working with local, such as city, counties, special districts, state agencies, or federal agencies. Or there are a wide range of individuals who work in private companies or non-government organizations, advocacy organizations, public interest organizations, that regularly work with these local, state, or federal agencies. So we have seen individuals in the program who focus on issues related to government affairs and lobbying, legislative staff, as I mentioned, public agency staffs, city and county. We get people who are interested in consulting work, for example, just a wide range of people whose work intersects with law, regulation, and policy. And the MSL gives them the chance to build on their existing skills and knowledge, whether that's from undergrad, work experience, or both, to really sharpen and become an expert in these areas of law, regulation, and policy. So if we're talking about water and environmental law specifically, we're likewise looking at a similar range of individuals, again, those local, state, or federal organizations, city, county, and agency staff of all stripes, scientists, public information officers, other communication specialists, journalists. We've had developers and people in agribusiness and agricultural financing, all of whom have been interested in the program and have benefited from the program. So if anyone has any questions about whether their background would benefit from the MSL, if their career objectives or professional objectives would otherwise benefit from the MSL, I wanted to offer that I am happy to talk with people one-on-one about that.
Thank you very much, Professor Harder, and I am sure that some of our audiences some members, sorry, of our audience will take advantage of this offer. So another important aspect in choosing a program is, how is this degree going to help me with my career or with my future career? So to our prospective students here, Professor Harder, how can they expect to leverage this degree in their career?
Well, you bet. So the students who, make up that ideal group of students have a number of professional objectives that they want to accomplish through the MSL degree, and that varies. So I'll talk about some of the possibilities, and there are more than this, of course. And again, I'm happy to talk with people. Some students, really take the MSL, earn the MSL so that they can sharpen their skills to provide more value in their current positions and leverage them to be more competitive for advancement and promotion. And I've seen that work very well. It can also be used to help our graduates focus on a particular issue or topic in their careers and really become experts in a specialized area. And I've seen our graduates do that as well. Some of the MSL students use the knowledge, skills, and the connections that we foster in the program to faculty, to other students, to our alumni base and practitioners in their issue areas. And they use those connections and the knowledge to apply for new jobs, transitioning out of what they might be doing now outside of their current institution, or even into a different focus area entirely. Another thing that our students have had success with is really taking the opportunity to do some deep research and perhaps publish in the field, to really take the opportunity to dive deep into specialized topics and increase their credibility with a publishable piece of research. And in this respect, really having the opportunity to dig into a topic, to prepare a publishable piece of research, and to make connections that the faculty can foster with other faculty around the world, the MSL does have the potential to be a gateway into an advanced degree, such as a PhD. So I've mentioned several times these networking opportunities, and I do want to underscore that. As someone who's in private practice myself, one of my goals with all of my students, whether they're JD students or graduate students in person or online, is to increase these opportunities for connection with faculty and with experts in your area of government, water, environmental law, whatever you happen to be interested in, as well as with alumni and current students who practice and work in this field of study. And through that networking to accomplish whatever it is you hope to get out of the MSL degree.
Thank you, Professor Harder. So the next step is for those of you who are interested in starting this program this fall or next spring is to start an application. Or simply to contact us if you want to have, if you have any additional questions or if you want to have an individualized session with either Professor Harder or myself. We can set up a Zoom session to show you how our online courses are set up on our learning management system, which is Canvas. Our next cohort starts on August 17, with orientation starting August 10th. Priority application deadline is June 1st, and I apologize because it only lists the application deadline, but this is actually just simply our priority application deadline that guarantee you a response from our team within 2 weeks. After that date, we will still accept application. The application is quite straightforward. You do not need a GRE or LSAT test. You don't have to have all your documents and to be ready to complete the application to start. You can do a little bit at a time. We will ask for a writing sample, and the writing sample should not be something that you write just for this purpose, meaning the application, but more something that you've previously written, whether it is a piece that you submitted for your bachelor's degree or something that you wrote for work. Anything is acceptable. We're quite flexible, but if you do want to double check what you can or cannot submit for the writing sample, please do reach out to us. The application is, you can find the application linked from our website and from this webinar, and we will send the recording of this webinar later this afternoon once the recording is available. So I think at this time, I would like to open up for questions. Professor Harder and I, we will stick around for as long as you want to answer any questions you may have, and you can simply type them in the chat box. So Professor Harder, could you describe a little bit more what our courses look like? Meaning, and I know we don't have Canvas set up right now to share with our audience, but what should students expect on a weekly basis?
Oh, I'd be happy to talk about that, one of my favorite topics. So I've mentioned that our courses are very carefully designed to foster the accomplishment of learning objectives using best practices in online learning and to foster interactivity between students and faculty. Most of our courses are asynchronous, meaning that you don't have to be in the same place at the same time. We typically will release the course, what we call course modules, once a week. And that would be a series of very short lectures. These are not hour-long lectures where you're watching somebody speak to an entire class. We don't simply record lectures. These are materials that have been put together specifically for this program. They're in short bits so that they're easier to absorb and you can rewind them and play them back. And then we have a series of tasks that are keyed to your reading material and lectures. One of the key components of the course is the discussion in the course. And most courses require discussion every week where the students will respond to a query posted by the professor. And then they respond to each other, and then the professor responds to them. And there's a conversation that goes on during the week, even though you're not in the same place at the same time. Some professors may offer optional live sessions where you can, for example, meet over Zoom, and that will happen from time to time. The other ways that we connect the reading, the lecture material, and the discussion material is through quizzes, which provide feedback for right answers and wrong answers that are, again, geared toward the learning objectives, and regular assignments with substantial feedback from the faculty member teaching the course. And those assignments may be individual, or you may be assigned in groups with some of your peers through the group function on Canvas. So these are just some of the really exciting ways in which we bring people together in the courses.
Thank you, Professor Harder. So another question. Are the degrees just focusing on California law, or is it also about on federal law?
The courses are primarily geared. So in law school classes, when you teach a topic generally, there is a large focus on federal law because federal law applies sort of, in many instances, sits as a sort of a model or a uniform law for all states. And then there's an opportunity to dig into state law. So in our courses, we're going to have federal law. In many courses, there will be a component of California law, which may be enhanced if a lot of the students are from California. If you're not from California, the faculty have designed the courses so that there are opportunities to learn about the principles of law in whatever state you're in and to apply the law to that state.
Thank you. Another question. I am currently an ombudsman with Agency on Aging Area 4. Can an MSL degree enhance the knowledge in advocacy and law enforcement?
Thank you for that question. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we focused on in, let me just take an example. in the executive branch in the administrative state is the various tasks, the various roles that agencies play around the law. And some of that is in making the law, interpreting the law, applying the law, and enforcing the law. So there's a lot of opportunities to understand how that works. And likewise, issues related to advocacy and persuasion we make connections to those issues in all of the courses. Courses in negotiations and persuasive public speaking will give some hands-on skills, but we also talk about advocacy in all of the substantive courses as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? So although like no one has asked that question, I just want to emphasize just one point that Professor Harder just mentioned briefly. You do not have to be, although like, I mean, like she implied that in one of her responses, you do not have to be in California to enroll in the program. We are authorized to enroll students from, I believe, 38 states in the United States. We have the list on our website, and if you would like to, if you don't live in California, you would like to check that we're authorized in your state, please send me an email and I'll be happy to do that for you. Professor Harder, any last comments?
I want to thank everybody for attending the webinar today and for your interest in the McGeorge MSL degree. And to thank you, Dean Kuchera, for inviting me today. And again, to reiterate my offer to anybody to please reach out to me if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Professor Harder. And I was going to end the webinar presentation, but we actually just got one last question. And is an MSL degree, is MSL is considered a medical law degree?
Thank you for that question. The MSL degree is a master's degree. It's a graduate degree. In some jurisdictions, it's known as a Master of Legal Studies. So what you're really studying is to become an expert in law, regulation, and policy at a master's level, at a graduate level, but you're not earning a Juris Doctor degree. And you wouldn't be taking the bar exam, but you would have the skills necessary to work in a law and policy area. So you could use the MSL to work in an agency, for example, that focuses on health, public health and medical issues. It certainly isn't equivalent to any kind of MD type degree, but it is a master's degree with the expertise, building that expertise in law and policy so that you can contribute to the conversation in those areas and be an expert in those areas.
Thank you very much, Professor Harder. So I don't see any other questions, but if you do have additional questions, really do please reach out to us. We very much enjoy speaking with prospective students. Until then, have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you, Professor Harder, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Dean Kuchera.